Welcome to another episode of Café Negro Show. I'm your host, George.
And I'm Adriana.
We're so excited to be back. For those that saw the past episodes, we just got back from Spain. We had an amazing trip.
It's wonderful.
Right? Where did we go?
We went to Spain. We went to Madrid and Barcelona, and our March episodes are a little bit different than our normal ones, but they're very interesting. Yeah, if you're like interested in like food, different foods from different cultures, definitely encourage you guys to look at it.
And we met some cool people, and we went with no kids for 6 days, just me and the wife. Oh my Lanta. And thank you guys so much for the comments. Of course, those amazing comments. And there were some interesting ones also, right?
Yes, we definitely got definitely some different perspectives of it, like if we should have gone on vacation without our kids, which, I can understand why people say that. But for us, it was something that was really necessary, definitely just to nurture that relationship as husband and wife, because your relationship, your life does change after having kids. And it's not to say that we don't go on family vacations. We do go, but this one was just like for us to invest in our relationship.
Yeah, we were very intentional with this trip. It wasn't easy, of course. We love our children, as I imagine every parent does. And this is the first time we went on our own. Our children are 9 and 6 right now, and we are blessed to have our parents here in town also. So they stayed with family and they had their own mini vacation as well.
It took a lot of organizing, like everything, because they're still in school, but we made it work. And it's not to say that they were not sad, because our daughter, our 9-year-old daughter, called us right before we got on the plane, and she was just like bawling, like so bad, like we were FaceTiming and she's just like, oh, I can't, don't leave. And it was hard. But I mean, she got through it, and we did talk to her like multiple times a day, and she got better.
And the reason we did it is because we believe in a few tips, parenting tips. And that is tip number 1, which is
invest in your relationship.
Invest in your relationship, because you're only going to be, the best thing you can do for your kids is have a happy marriage. If your marriage is healthy, it's the best thing you could do. So we wanted to invest in ourselves.
And not just, you don't have to go on an international trip. You can it's just as long as you have that alone time, because we all know when we're like around our kids, they're just like wanting to be part of everything, which is wonderful. We're not saying that's not wonderful, but you also just need that time.
What would you say is tip number 2?
So tip number 2 would be an example. And we have a Bible verse that goes with this, which is going to be in Titus chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. And it says, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works. And in your teaching, show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned. I love this verse. I really do love it, because it just it makes perfect sense. Because as parents, it's not like we have a guidebook, right? Like everything is still new to us, especially when we first had the kids. We were so scared. But one thing that we try to do is just to be an example, because you can't tell your kid, don't curse, but then they hear you cursing, in your everyday lives. So you definitely have to be an example for them, because like they say, they're like sponges, right? Like they just very
much so. Something that I was taught was always, kids are not going to do what you teach them, what you tell them. Kids are going to do what they see. So that just hits right on point with this biblical verse, because not to say, that's what I'm saying, it is a wonderful verse, and it's very important to know. It is also very challenging as parents. And it's something that we should learn to balance, even with our own parents. Many of us are going to be a product, all of us are going to be a product of where we grew up, right? So, and what we saw, and our parents might have told us, don't do this, saying do this, but we end up doing or having the habits that our parents had that we didn't want, because we end up doing what we saw.
And you see it, right? You're like, oh, my dad did that, or my mom did that. Yeah.
But do the best you can. Best you can. It is our first time being parents. It's your first time being in the season of your life that you are. As much as people talk about it, thank God there's a lot of resources that we can learn from people. But it's still our first time going through these stages in life. So be the best you can in everything. Just remember your kids are watching.
Yes.
Kids are watching. I think that's
You know,
important.
and definitely, you know, we want to reflect like God's love, and we always want to follow the example of Jesus, right? We can't be exactly like him because he was perfect, but follow his example. And maybe, you know, you don't have like the best childhood like me. I feel like I didn't have like the best childhood in the sense of like maybe in some instances, you know, I didn't see like, you know, certain things. So there are things that I have to be very intentional about with our kids because it's not natural to me to be like that, but I know that, you know, it's the right thing to do. So like, you know, if it's not natural but you know it's the right thing, you have to be intentional about it.
You know, and as parents, when our children are young, we're in charge of their influence 24/7. So they see us, they act like us, everything. But what I've noticed is as they continue to grow, especially with Olivia, our daughter, they start adapting, they start absorbing characteristics or phrases or ideas from their surroundings, which can become scary as parents because, you know, you want to protect them from the world. But that takes us to point number 2, which is give them a godly lifestyle. For us, that has been very essential, right? We have that consistency when it comes to our lifestyle as Christians, of separating no matter how busy, no matter where we're at. When it's the day of the Lord, it's the day of the Lord, and not to be religious, but because just like in anything in our lives, we have to be intentional on making that time for it, to invest that time. We're intentional with our faith, where we make sure that our children are around people that have the same faith. You know, in the community at our church, they learn amazing things. They make friends that have the same ideas. So understanding God becomes more real to them. So
yes. And on Proverbs 22:6, it says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. You know, and we're talking about church because that's a very big part of our lives, you know, but not just church, but just to add a little bit more to like, you know, like church, because we both grew up in church. So for us, we've served like in every single like department. So for us, it's just important for our kids to be that way too. And it's just, you know, it becomes like a natural part of life. And I remember growing up, like sometimes I didn't want to go to church, you know, and it's one thing that my mom, you know, she was like, oh, you have to go. She kind of instilled that in me. And while I was there and like I didn't want to go, now it's just kind of like as I'm older, I feel like I can relate to this verse. And it says like, even when he's old or me older, he will not depart from it. And I cannot see myself like not going to church. But then there's other things that we do, like, you know, we always pray like before like eating like any meal, you know, and for them it's just like a natural thing. Like anywhere that we go, when we're at a restaurant, we hold hands and we pray, you know. And I think that's just a great example. I didn't grow up like that, but I love that they're growing up like that. And to go to sleep too, right? Like we have like our routine, so it's not just church, so it's just like creating that environment for them.
You know, I love what you said, because it's true. I remember being young, and our parents taking us to church, and it seemed as though we weren't listening because, you know, we were like, in my case, I was like under the bancos. You know, back in the day, the church they had those long benches. So me, I had a friend, Carlitos, and we used to go under the benches and go, you know, just be mischievous kids. But we were in church. I mean, nonetheless, we were in church for hours. So yeah, we would get in some trouble, but what happens is as time continues to go and we become adults and life hits us, situations in life come up, and we seek rescue, we seek an answer, we're gonna return back home. And home is those core values, you know, that we were raised, that we were taught what the right thing to do is. We're gonna return to that. Because what it shows is that even though the kids may seem like they're not paying attention, that environment is being sewed into their lives, and they will be in there for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it just becomes a lifestyle, and you know, you just can't really see yourself like just being away from it, you know. And even if you are for like a short time, like your spirit, like it still craves it just to be there and just being around other like-minded like people and serving God, right? Because that's what he wants us to do while we're here. Just, do those good works.
No, I know this is not in the script, but I'm gonna ask you something.
Okay.
What do you do if our kids say, I don't want to go to church?
Like right now?
Yes.
What do you mean? Like you
So
going?
yeah, exactly. Olivia comes and she's like, you know what? I don't feel like going to church today.
No, I mean, I usually try to like make them. I mean, especially her, because like I feel like kind of understands more and be like, you gonna do that to Jesus? Like what did Jesus do to you? So I think with her, I take that approach. With Luca, I'm more like, no, you're going, get dressed, we're going, have a seat.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So you're real more. No, I love it. I mean, we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Saying don't be afraid to discipline your children. They're your children. They're our responsibility, right?
And they have developed that fear, I feel like, of God. Olivia has definitely.
1000%. But the thing is that discipline is not meant to happen over and over again. You instill that in them, and it becomes part of their character. And these comes back to the points that we were giving as far as being an example. Obviously, if you're telling them to go to church and you're not going to church, then it's not really going to work out that well. Because they're not dumb. They see what you're doing. But if you are being an example, and you're providing them that lifestyle, godly lifestyle, then let's add that discipline. That is our last point.
That's our next point. Yeah, don't be afraid to discipline your child. And discipline comes in many ways. No. I mean, us like I don't get to say. We definitely got like hard some whoopings, right? Like definitely, but it doesn't have to come like that. Not to say we don't believe in spanking. I know some parents do not, but we do. Obviously we have a thing like we say like don't do it when you're mad because we don't want to like lose control.
We're very intentional with it. Yeah, and that's I know that's a whole other subject because I know when we're talking about everybody has that idea. We don't beat up our kids. I think there's a difference between beating up a kid and disciplining your kid, right? There has to. The idea with that action is that they're learning something, right? But we don't really do it. Maybe it's happened a handful of times, but if it ever has happened, there's been a long discussion of what's going on, or if they're not listening, just to grab their attention. And it's not like we're just swinging or anything. We have specific places just to. Anyways, let's continue.
So our Bible verses for this are also in Proverbs. We have train up a child in the way he should go. Oh no, that's not it. Sorry. Proverbs 29:17. Discipline your son and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your heart. That's Proverbs 29:17.
Yes, so good.
And then the last one is discipline your children while there is hope. Otherwise you will ruin their lives. And that is Proverbs 19:18. So
that's powerful.
Yes,
both of them.
Yes. So like again, like discipline can come in many ways, and one thing that when you asked about the kids that came is like I said, our 9-year-old daughter has already developed like a fear of God, which is like wonderful because I don't know if like at that age I had the fear of God that she has, and like one thing is like when I asked him if like she did something and Luca too, our 6-year-old, when they're like no, and I know for a fact that they're not being truthful, something that I do is like, okay, I'll be right back, I'm gonna go ask Jesus and he's gonna tell me the truth. So you better tell me the truth if you don't want to get more in trouble, because Jesus is gonna tell me the truth. And they always confess, so it's, again, like discipline can come in like many different ways.
And so on the first verse that you were talking about, the Proverbs 29:17, discipline your son and daughter, and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your heart. It's so true. Like, it is important that we have that discipline, because if your kids are not disciplined, then they become like you don't want them around. They become brats. They become annoying. They become
somebody that doesn't
disrespectful.
have discipline, like they're like, it's chaos. They don't have rules, so they don't it's just like they're not, like you said, they're not. It's not good to be around somebody that doesn't have discipline, because that means something is out of control.
And think about it. You love your children.
Yeah.
But as much as you love your children, if your children annoy you, imagine out in the world. So you don't want to, one of the craziest things to think about our children, is the most beautiful blessing that, we feel love like we've never felt love with our children before. At the same time, we feel fear like never before because of the reality of life, So our best bet is to make sure that we leave them prepared for the future where we won't be in, in the future where they'll continue the legacy. And if we can't stand them, the world is not going to stand them. So make sure that we create people that we would like to be around. And that just gives us a clear idea of, the people that are going to be in the community and how they're going to live their lives.
I think nowadays, like people, want to be our parents. Some parents want to be their kids' like friends, and then it's like that point, right? And it's like, yes, of course you want to be their friend, but you're also like their parent. And as a parent, you have to like establish like rules. It's kind of like I was a middle school teacher, and with being a teacher of like teenagers, like you cannot like just go in with the approach of just being their friend, because they're gonna run all over you. You have to set those rules from the beginning, and if you do that, then you can be like, okay, let's be friends. You know what the rules are. Now we can establish that like that point, or just being like friends, because you can't start friends and then try to establish rules, because it's not gonna work. They're gonna be like, well, why can't I do this? I used to do it before. Why can I not do it now? Like, it's gonna be harder to train your kids or to establish those rules if you don't establish them from the beginning, from a young age.
And they need it, and they like it. Well, depending on the child, even if they act like they don't like it, they definitely need it. Our daughter, she loves having her schedule. We have a schedule, we have challenges for them, and they, sometimes you leave me without them, and I'm not as organized as she is. So when she's home, they are, okay, it's time to do this. Hey guys, it's time to do that. There's a follow-up. When you're not home, sometimes I get involved in some work or etc. And they're like, she'll come to me. She's like, hello, when are we going to start doing this? She's like, there's a schedule that I need to, follow up with. And so, these are just some tips that we've learned.
Have worked for us.
And we're going to continue learning. I mean, we still got baby children, so I can't imagine the challenges that are coming up in the future. And if you guys have some tips you want to share, please put them in the comments, subscribe and like. And thank you for joining us, Café Negro Show. We're excited to be back.
Yes.
I know you're excited for the next trip, but still, it's good to be back home with you guys. Thank you so much for your time.